Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, we're going to take a look at some paper. This paper. I was lucky enough, each week, the Pen Addict, he has a weekly draw, so you have to enter it. And a few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to win this. This is Fountain Pen Friendly Paper Collection by Yamamoto. So what we're going to do is take a look at this. There's 5 different types of paper. We'll have a quick look at the papers. We'll look at them with some pens, how they handle fountain pens, and I'll give you my thoughts as we're going along. Welcome down to the table. Now I'm starting with the pad on its side just so you can see the full size. This is an A5 notepad. I've taken it out the plastic wrapper because that reflects the light so much. So let's turn this around. So this is a Yamamoto paper pack and it's fountain pen friendly paper collection and it's volume number 1. A5 in size, as I said, and here we've got the Yamamoto paper. So let me move it up. So in here it's got some sheets of thin paper by Kokuyo, hopefully I pronounced that right, 52 GSM. Sanzen Tomoe River paper, 52 GSM. Champion copy paper, 35 GSM. Typewriter paper, 29 GSM. And onion skin paper, which supports alcohol inks, 40 GSM. Also in the pack, I've hidden it down here, I thought I'd put it underneath, are these guidelines, but they're fairly wide. Even the grid looks quite wide, but they're useful to have, aren't they? Just going to pop that to one side. The whole thing is one solid pad, so it's not separate sheets, it's a solid pad, which I think is brilliant. Opening it up, just turn that over. No, I won't. Opening it up, trying to get it so I can actually still see my camera preview. There we go, opening it up. So we've got some details here about the first paper. So with each paper set, there's some details there. So we've got it in, I'm assuming, Japanese. And then if I'm going to go down, if you want to read this, please feel free to pause the video. I'm not going to read it out to you. That would be rather boring. So please feel free to pause. Okay, let's go and look at the actual paper itself. So the paper feels very thin. Even though it's 52 GSM, this is that thin paper. So I suppose that's where it gets its name from. To me, there's a slight creaminess to it. Just fetching back that guide, so you can see very slightly cream. So the paper itself feels quite smooth. I'm not going to really say there's a coating on it, I don't know, but it does feel quite smooth. What I'm going to do is turn right the way back to the very last sheet, because this is where I'm going to do my tests. I was just making sure I was on the right one. So what I've done is I've done some tests. I've started off by writing out some, just because I think that gives a good idea. So we've got the Canwrite Heritage with Pure Pens John Frost, which is a sheening ink. We've got the Asfine P20 with Diamine Ruby Blues, another sheening ink. We've got Platypus Pens Model 10 with Diamine Spruce, which is a scented and a sheening ink. We've got the Retro 51 Tornado with a 1.1 stub. This is with Diamine Vintage Copper. This one is a shimmer ink. And then we've got the Sailor Pro Gear Slim Broad 14 karat gold nib. Should have told you the other ones. I've written down the size of the nib so you can see them. And here I've got Diamine Garland, which is a sheening and a shimmering ink. So I've written with them 5. What I'm going to do now is write with another 3 pens just so you can see it right and see how it goes. Then we'll come back and look at each one. And that's the same process for each of the inks, just so you can get an idea for how they go. So turning it slightly on its side just makes it easier for me to write. The first pen, this is from Ranga. It's a Ranga Santa. In here I've got a 1.1 Yoho stub nib. And the ink in here is Diamine Tinsel, which is a shimmer ink. So let's just agitate this a little bit. So we've got a Ranga Santa. Writes quite nicely, doesn't feel rough at all, with a 1.1 stub nib. No, it seems to be drying fairly quick. And diamine tinsel. Which, as I say, is a shimmer ink. Yep, that's nice. The ink comes off there really well. Next one we're going to look at, this is a standard ink, but it's an ink which I think normally has a lot of shading. So this is in Yamamoto 2000 with a broad nib. So we've got here Yamamoto 2000 with a broad nib, and it's 14 karat gold. And the ink is by Diamine. It's Weeping Willow. So I normally see shading with this, so that's why I thought this would be a good one to test with. And then the final ink, the final pen. This is in the Visconti Homo Sapiens. Very wet writing pen, so I thought this is a good one to try that out with. So we've got a Visconti Homo Sapiens with broad 18 karat gold. The ink is Diamine Fireside Snug. This is a standard ink. Just look how wet that comes off there. I forgot to do my swipe with the Lamy, so let's just fix that. Let's try and do that now. So let's have a quick look. How are these performing on here? So we'll start with that Canwright Heritage, this sheen. Absolutely loads, tons of beautiful red sheen coming through here, which is something I don't see on a lot of papers, which is really nice. The Asvine P20, again, just look at that sheen really bouncing off the page, isn't it? The Platypus Model 10. So this is a scent. They don't label it as a sheen, but I find this sheens quite nicely. Again, I can see in there, not sure if it's coming over on the camera, some nice red sheen coming through. The Retro 51 Tornado, not seeing much in the way of shimmer. And the Sailor Pro Gear Slim, again, we've got some nice, like a red sheen coming through. And the occasional little bit of shimmer, but again, with this ink, I don't often see a lot of shimmer. The Ranga Santa, wow, loads of that gold shimmer coming through there in the writing. The Lamy 2000, yeah, we're seeing some nice shading coming through, especially at the top of each of the letters. And then the Visconti Homo Sapiens, say did this one because I know it's very wet. Beautiful colour. Turning over to the back. There we are, accidentally pulled it out, but that doesn't matter. There we go, absolutely nothing bleeding through. Yes, we get some show through, I expect that. So, yeah, not too bad. So this is, I'm just going to put on here, I'm actually going to use a different pen. So this is number 1. This pen is a Sailor 1911 Junior, still nibbed, medium fine nib, and in there is Diamine Yuletide. So let's pop that to one side. So paper number 2 will do the same. So we've got Sanzen Tomoe River S, made by the Sanzen Paper Manufacturing Company, 52 GSM. There's some Japanese there, and then I'll move it up. So we've got the English translation. I'll leave that if you want to have a quick read. As say, you may want to pause the video to read it. We'll be going a lot quicker now because we've done most of the talking. So with this paper, again, feels very smooth, very textured. To my eye, slightly creamy colour. Again, it feels thin. Oh, that was 2 sheets. Feels thin. I would say in terms of thinness, very similar to that first one. Which, given they're both 52 GSM paper, that's not surprising. Feels nice, but let's see how does it handle the writing. So, going back. Again, I'm just going to make sure, yep, there's number 3, so I've got the right one. Let's do our writing again. So, exact same order. The Ranga Santa. Let's give it a bit of a juggle, just to make sure we've got some shimmer in there. So, we've got here a Ranga Santa. Feels very similar to the other one. 1.1. We've got Diamine tinsel. And this is a shimmer. A little bit of railroad in there. Could have been me though. Limey 2000. With Diamine Weeping Willow. And finally, we've got the Visconti. And what's this like? Okay, make sure I get the right finger. Again, that's a lot wetter. I know that this is a fairly wet ink. So let's look, how has this performed? So again, with that Canonite heritage, loads of that beautiful red sheen coming through. Same here with the Asvine. The Platypus, not seeing any sheen on this paper, which I did see on the other, although the other there was only a little bit. The Retro 51 Tornado. Here I am seeing, like down here on that P, I'm seeing a little bit of that copper shimmer coming through there. Then the Sailor Pro Gear Slim. Seeing loads of the shimmer, but very little of the sheen on this one, which is quite interesting. But yeah, loads of this beautiful like blue shimmer and maybe little hints of the red sheen. With the Santa, again, this one showing up that shimmer really, really well. On the Lamy, with that Diamine Weeping Willow, I don't think there's as much shading showing here as what we were seeing with the first one. And the Visconti Homo Sapiens, yeah, that's nice and wet. So let's have a look over on the back. So this is interesting. We've got here, it's bled through in a couple of places. This was on that Platypus. Now I know that's a really wet ink and a wet writer, so that does explain it, but compared to the other one, so yeah, definitely getting that show through happening. And then the rest, yeah, we can see through, we expect that. So I'm going to write on here, number 2. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. You know, would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. So next up, paper number 3. Let me get this in the camera for you. This is Champion Copy Paper by Mitsubishi Paper Mills. 35 GSM, so should be a thinner feeling paper. We've got the Japanese writing, and I'll move it up so we can now see the English one. Again, if you want to pause it and have a read, feel free to do so. Right, turning the page. This paper, again, feels very similar. Feels quite smooth. Gosh, does it half feel thinner. And to me, it's got a little bit more of a transparency to it. It reminds me of baking parchment, but thin baking parchment. That's what it really reminds me of. And that's a weird thing, isn't it? But that's just what it feels like and appears to be to me. Let's jump on back. What I've done is I've put this in between each page just to help keep any ink from going on. Yep, number 4. So let's write again. Again, make sure I agitate this. Oh, look, I spelled garland wrong there. Garland. So we've got a Ranga Santa. With that 1.1 stub nib, and we've got diamond tinsel. Wow, I can see the shimmer coming through already. Diamond tinsel, and this is a shimmer ink. All these papers, when I'm actually writing on them, I'm not feeling much of a difference in the writing experience. We've got the Lamy 2000. Here we've got broad 14K AU. And this, oh no, got to do us. There we go. And in here we've got Diamine Weeping Willow. That there was me. And this is a standard ink. And we've got the Visconti. With a broad 18 karat gold nib. And Diamine Fireside Snug. That looks not as wet as the other two papers, doesn't it? So let's take a look at these, how we're going with these. So again, that Canwright Heritage with John Frost, absolutely loads of the shimmer of the sheen coming through. Wow, the Diamine Ruby Blues on here, they're really popping. Loads and loads. I would say twice as much as I was seeing on both the other papers. The Platypus, not seeing any of that sheen coming through. The Retro 51, now we're starting to talk, aren't we? Look at the shimmer coming through on there. This beautiful coppery yellow, goldy coloured shimmer. Then with the Sailor Pro Gear Slim on here, yep, definitely seeing some of that red sheen. And hints again of the shimmer, but nowhere near as much as on the previous paper. With the ones we've just used, the Ranga Santa, wow. Again, this shimmer really working well on this paper. With the Lamy, seeing a little bit of shading, but nowhere near as much as the first paper. And the Visconti. Let's take this out and look over the back. So we're definitely seeing a lot more coming through here. Given it's 35 GSM paper, you know, I'm not surprised. I'm just going to move that paper down a bit. So we can see there. Again, this is the Platypus pen, but certainly seeing more coming through. So this is number 3. So that goes to one side. Paper number 4, typewriter paper. This one again by Mitsubishi Paper Mills. I'll leave that a second and I'll move it up so you can see the English version. So what's this paper like? So look at that, very thin. It reminds me, this is going to sound a little bit disgusting, so please forgive me. It reminds me in terms of look. When I was a kid, there was this toilet paper called Isel, which was like a medicated, they called it a medicated paper. And it was a bit like this. It was very shiny. And I mean, I'm going from memory of this. And this is what, I've got to be honest, this reminds me of. I would think this would be good paper for airmail because it's so thin and light. Again, feels the same. You know, not like it's coated, but it does feel the same to me. Let's turn to the back. Move that out of the way and do our writing again. So we've got here, I mean, look at this. You can see the next title page coming through already. So we've got a Ranga Santa. Oh, I forgot to agitate it. Never mind. Let's give it a bit of a shake. A Ranga Santa with a 1.1 nib. and diamine tinsel. This is a shimmer. We've got the Lamy 2000. This is a standard ink. And it's a broad 14 carat. Now, on this, I don't know if you saw that, I've actually torn through the paper. So that's something worth mentioning. And we've got here diamine, weeping willow, just going to do that one again because of tearing through. Yeah, that looks a bit better, doesn't it? And finally, the Visconti. And diamine fireside snug. So again, it does seem to dry a little bit faster than we were seeing, certainly with the first paper. So look how we're going with this. Again, we've got loads of the sheen coming through. That Asvine P20 with diamine ruby blues, loads of sheen. More than we were seeing with the last one, I would say. The platypus, now look at that. Hopefully the camera captures this. Beautiful, massive, gorgeous red sheen coming through on here. So I'm hoping that the capture, do you know I can't talk today. I'm hoping that the camera's capturing this. I'm just trying different ways to try and show it for you. I think there was a bit there. I'll know better when I edit. The Retro 51 Tornado, again we're seeing loads of that shimmer on here. I would say that's the most shimmer we've seen so far. The Sailor, again loads of that beautiful red sheen. I'm seeing a bit more, look on that D here on diamine, in fact the whole word of diamine. Loads of that beautiful blue shimmer. With the Ranga, there we go, that diamine tinsel again, showing tons of that shimmer. The Lamy, a little bit of shade maybe there on that W, but not, and maybe on the D, but not really seeing that much. Remember, I also tore the paper, so be careful with this one, how much pressure you put on it. Then we've got that Visconti Homo sapiens down at the bottom. Let's take this out. We would expect this, it's very thin paper. I mean, what is it? 27.9 GSM, so the thinnest paper we've had so far. So you're seeing a lot coming through it. I wouldn't be able to use both sides of this, but it's not bleeding through, which is the key thing. Pop, oh, I didn't write the number. So this is number 4. We'll pop that to one side again. The final paper, number 5. Strange that, you're thinking number 5 coming after number 4. So this is smooth onion skin and it supports alcohol inks. 40 GSM. I'll move it up, there you are, so you can pause that if you want to have a read through. Let's take a look at this paper. This is the roughest feeling of them all. There feels to be a texture on this, so it's nowhere near as smooth as the other 4. It's 40 GSM, so it's thicker than the last 2, but only just. And certainly you can feel the difference between this and the first 2, which were both 52 GSM papers. It's nice though, it feels okay. Key thing is, how does it handle the ink? So we go right the way to the back of the pad. And we'll start with the Ranga Santa. And this is what I was getting all the way through. To show it's not the pen, here's the pen just on that scrap paper. This is just cheaper paper. All right, so we know it's writing all right. And if we go back here, we have the issues again. Diamine Tinsel. I forgot the name of the ink for a second there. And this is a shimmer with the Lamy 2000. So that's that broad 14K. Just do that again. I used the wrong finger to swipe it. And we've got Diamine Weeping Willow. And then finally, that Visconti. What can I say about this paper? It really doesn't handle fountain pens very well. So we've got the Kindwrite John Frost at the top. Yes, we can see some of that sheen coming through, which is nice. P20, again, seeing some of that beautiful sheen. We're also seeing loads of sheen here with the Platypus pens. Not sure if the camera's catching that. Yeah, I think they control it just a little bit. Look at the Retro 51. Wow, really did not want to write. And then the Sailor Pro Gear Slim. Again, seeing the sheen, but not seeing much shimmer. With the Santa, again, wrote really badly. And we are getting some of that shimmer coming through though. The Lamy 2000, hardly legible there. So yes, we're seeing shading, but we're also seeing the fact that it doesn't write half the time. Then even with the Visconti Homo Sapiens, which is a very wet writer, really struggling to get anything out of this one. Let's turn them over. Not much show through, which is good. No bleed through. But again, do you want to use this for fountain pens? So let me get my other one coming in. So this is number 5. What I'm going to do with this one, because it's so disappointing, maybe is the right word. Just going to do a little test with a couple of other pens. So first one is a ballpoint. Yep, that seems to be actually working quite well. So if you're using ballpoint pens, this looks quite interesting. This is a fine liner. Again, that one's working quite well. And then finally, this is a pencil. This is just a HB pencil. There we go, HB. And again, that works quite well. So not really fountain pen paper, but for ballpoints, for other pens, it seems to be okay. We just pop this away. And I'll fetch in all of today's papers. We won't get to see all of them. So we go 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then let me position these so hopefully we've got all of them a little bit in the camera. Interesting pack, isn't it? Really like it. The first 4 papers aren't too bad. That last one, as a fountain pen user, to be honest, very little use to me. But it'll be handy though to use for things where I can just get away with a ballpoint. I would say as we were going on, the amount of sheen coming through was increasing. Of these papers, the one I really like is the first one. I think that's really nice. The Tomoe River, the Sanzen, has a bit disappointed. Number 3, that Champion copy. Yep, that's fine. But we're starting to get a bit on the thin side. Might be ideal for writing letters to go abroad. What I can only really describe as thin toilet paper. There we go, number 4. Again, very nice to write with, but I'd only be able to use one side, which is fine, as long as I understand that. Now, say the 5th one. Absolutely no use. So this is the Yamamoto Fountain Pen Friendly Pen Collection, volume number 1. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. So what are your thoughts on this paper? What are your thoughts on the individual papers? Do you have collections like this? Do you like these paper sampler type things? Please drop your comments down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.